welcome back to the Now Morning Show here on TTT. I am Natalee Legore, and as we indicated, it's Tobago Thursday, where we try to pay as much attention to what's happening in the sister isle as possible outside of the election. A lot of people have been talking about just how we're going to survive, in these rough times with food prices going up. And so we're going to be checking in with chairman of the Tobago Agribusiness Cooperative Society Limited, Mr. Lindsay Edwards, who is a farmer, just to talk to him about food security in Tobago. We're tired to hear about the boat coming down, the boat breaking down, the boat not being able to come back up, and people taking everything from Trinidad to Tobago. Can Tobago sustain itself where agriculture is concerned? Good morning to you, Mr. Edwards.
Hi, good morning, Natalie. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you. So, Mr. Edwards, talk to us. We are in a situation now, we're in the pandemic. Food prices are going through the roof, really. There's some inflation in the system. Is agriculture the way out of this, you think? Do you think it can be that tiebreaker, that thing that helps us to, move away from these exorbitant food prices?
Well, I don't want to say that it is the thing, but it is certainly one of the areas that we can use to help us survive in this troubling time.
I definitely agree. So how can we do that? What are some of the things that we can do to get agriculture to help us to survive?
Well, first of all, I think the powers that be needs to pay more particular attention to our farmers and the farming industry and as to how we survive, or how we cope with some of the things that are happening around us. For instance, there are small things that can be done where they could deal with certain things, taking care of our farmers. One of the things are our incentive programs that have, I think, for some reason or the other, fell along the way, right? Those are areas that the farmers could tap into to help them tie some of the burdens. For instance, if we look at what's been happening over the past few months in the increase of all these imported stuff like the fertilizers, the cost of imports generally went through the roof.
Yeah, but
right? I mean, normally
the thing is that it went through the roof for everybody. Is Tobago
Yes, it did.
Is Tobago in a more unique position when it comes on to access of these things, that it stands, at a disadvantage, is what I'm trying to figure out.
And in some areas, I think it does, right? But I don't know how we could help that. But I don't know how the shipping lanes, if that could help or in any way ease the burdens. But generally, supplies come to Trinidad and then it has to be shipped to Tobago, right? And in that shipping, the cost also goes up for us. So we are definitely at a disadvantage where inputs is concerned.
Right. So outside of fertilizers and stuff like that, in terms of Tobago and what it produces in the ground, what it farms, is it sufficient to help those, to feed those in Tobago? I mean, the population is about 66,000. Does Tobago farm enough to feed that number of people?
Natalie, at this point in time, it is not. But it can be. We are in a particular situation where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. In that, we are at a position where we have the influx of produce. Put aside the inputs coming from Trinidad, we are at a point where we have produce as well coming from Trinidad, raw materials coming from Trinidad. And the farmers here do not have the chance or the opportunity to try to fill these voids. If the powers that be try to put systems in place that would allow some of these easing away, where that our farmers here would be able to fill some of these voids, I think we can. We might be able to then reverse the situation as it used to be some years back.
But is
Where
it
every Trinidadian, when they come to Tobago, they're going down with a box of food for the granny or tanty or whoever it might be.
Yeah, but if that was the case, Mr. Edwards, I don't know that. Is it that the farmers need to produce first, or is it that, the authorities that we need to cut back what's coming to Tobago? Because what is there to prevent the farmers from producing? Because if it's there on the island, I know that people are going to sit and allow it to become glut on the market. So shouldn't
Right.
the farmers just take the initiative to go ahead and farm, and produce the things that are needed on the island?
And Natalie, I do agree with you. There are some farmers who definitely take this initiative and go ahead and produce. But there are some commodities that when you do produce these items and they are in glut, what do they do with them? Are the farmers just going to spend these monies and produce these items and then just throw them away? First, we have to have systems in place where we can utilize these items. And these are some of the areas that I think in the past the assemblies and or the government is not paying particular attention to some of the farmers. We have agro-processors on the island as well, and we need to strengthen some of these persons so that they would be able to use the raw material when we have these things in glut and so that they can be utilized and become even more food for our people.
So we definitely have a situation on the island, but we do have a new executive in the THA. Are there any plans to have that kind of interaction with the THA to see how some of these issues can be addressed?
Well, we certainly do have plans to meet with them. We have not have the opportunity to meet with the assembly as yet, given that they are now in office and we know that they hit the ground running, doing a lot of things. They have been extremely busy. So we have to allow for our time to have the opportunity to meet with them.
And if you get that opportunity, what are some of the issues you think are definitely important for you to raise?
Well, some of the issues off the bat that we could raise are the issues with tractor pool, access to lands, the marketing access, funding for farmers, water. Water is a big point right now. Our last assembly just spent in excess of $10 million in the Goldsboro area. And to date, the farmers have not been able to access these water to water the crops.
It seems as if we're going to have to talk to the Minister of Public Utilities, see if we can get some of that community water improvement program over in Tobago.
It definitely seems.
So, Mr. Edwards, the things that seem to be, between a rock and a hard place from what you're telling me. But what are some of the things that are working right now in terms of farming on the island?
Well, we have some farmers who are definitely doing their best in whatever areas they are that they could produce. I myself, I'm a farmer. I do my core crop is dasheen leaves, and I supply dasheen leaves across the island, generally to supermarkets, vendors, right? But let me just use my example. As I was telling you before, we have a situation where because prices increase, there's no way we in Tobago could compete with the cost of production in Trinidad. Absolutely no way.
What prevents Tobago from being able to compete on that level?
Because of our cost of inputs. Our cost of inputs on the island is higher than that of Trinidad.
And therefore, that is the incentive to ensure that the cost of input goes down, which means that Tobago is somehow producing more.
Yes, but how can you produce more? How can you produce more when there is no avenue to let it out? I'm in a position where I produce dasheen leaves, right? And I supply supermarkets, vendors across the island. And recently, because of the hike increase, I had the increase of, because I packaged my bush, right? My bush is packaged and labeled. I had increase in plastic bags, in fertilizers, in chemicals, every area there was increase. I simply increased my cost by $1 to try to cope because I have employees.
All right.
And there are some suppliers who already start cutting back. And some are saying that they have to bring stuff from Trinidad because it's cheaper to bring it from Trinidad. So how then do you tell the farmer here, produce
right.
for me?
So you're not
taking the stuff.
You think because the cost of production is so much higher, it wouldn't even be viable to send to Trinidad to sell?
It would not be viable to send everything. There are some things, some items we could maintain a cost and send to Trinidad and sell. But there are some items that are perishable that is not feasible to try to do this commodity to send to Trinidad to sell. So the cost of production, it wouldn't make sense.
So then maybe that has to be the first move then, to get the cost of production down through some incentives or through some subsidiaries from the THA?
Absolutely.
So then when do you write to that secretary to say, okay, we need to have a meeting and see if we can have this plan to move forward, not just for the short term, but the short, medium, and long term, so that Tobago can be sustainable? Because a lot of time we talk about these things, and that's all we do, we talk. But nobody takes the time out to put things in black and white to say, okay, this is how we're going to get from point A to B, from B to C, and straight down to Z.
Well, Natalie, we're in the first week of the year, and our board hasn't met yet for the year. So we're expecting we would like to meet sometime in the near future, probably in the second or third week of the month, and then we would chart the way forward where that is concerned.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, because I think it is going to be so important, to just have that meeting of the minds, to just, see what is the best thing to do for Tobago, especially now where we're seeing that the cost of everything is just so high. And not only that, maybe if we're having more natural produce and more, farm quality produce as compared to, the plastic bag goods, as I like to call them, we might find we end up with a healthier society, especially Tobago, where vaccine uptake is so low. You don't want to think that, well, people have to start paying particular attention to their nutrition to build their immunity.
All right.
So,
Absolutely.
Mr. Edwards, so things definitely need some improvements.
Yes, we do. Things need some improvement, and there are certain areas that need some immediate attention.
Right. And I hope that you'll be able to get them. Well, all the best to the farming community in Tobago. Looking forward to those conversations, and hopefully we can check back in with you or even some other representative to just find out how things are unfolding.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Same here.